Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really influential book, a business book that basically told everyone, 15 years ago, to forget everything they thought they knew.
Yeah, set fire to the 5-year plans, ditch the investors.
And maybe most controversially, stop working quite so hard.
Exactly.
We're talking about Rework, the manifesto from the Basecamp founders. Super influential, sometimes pretty controversial.
Hmm.
Its original slogan was basically, forget what you think you know about business. Simple as that.
Right.
So, our mission today, figure out its shelf life. We've got AI changing everything about productivity. Remote teams are the norm. Does that pure rework philosophy still work? Is it a reliable guide for, say, a startup in 2025?
Or has the world just moved on too much?
Yeah.
It's a really important question, I think. Because that book, it wasn't just advice, was it? It felt like permission.
Permission, yeah, that's a good word for it.
It gave a whole bunch of new entrepreneurs the guts to ignore decades of traditional business thinking.
Like needing tons of capital or layers of managers.
Or those crazy long hours, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole hustle culture thing.
Right.
And what's really fascinating is how successful that radical simplicity actually was for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have to ask, is that same simplicity a strength anymore? Or is it maybe a weakness when everyone, thanks to AI, can move fast and cheap?
So does the mindset still hold up, even if the tools and the competition are completely different?
That's the core question. We need to know if it's, well, expired.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's set the baseline first. Remind ourselves what made Rework such a big deal back in 2010. It really was all about simplification, wasn't it? Cutting things out.
Totally. It was almost defined by what it told you not to do.
Like planning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rejecting the tyranny of the calendar, basically.
Right.
They were dead set against long-term planning, especially those, mandatory 5-year business plans.
Yeah, the ones everyone felt they had to have.
Their argument was simple. The market changes way faster than you can possibly plan for 5 years out. So spending time on it, it's just noise. Useless.
Better to just react. Iterate.
Yeah, iterate constantly. Stay flexible.
And then there was the work ethic thing. That really shook up the early 2010s startup scene.
Oh, absolutely. They famously argued that working crazy long hours was not heroic. It wasn't a badge of honor.
The focus had to be purely on output, results, not how long you sat in a chair.
Work less, produce more. That was the mantra.
Which tied into their thoughts on money, right? Financial independence.
Yes, very strongly. The advice was really direct.
Mm-hmm.
Skip the venture capital. Avoid outside investors if you possibly can.
Grow on your own terms.
Grow independently at your own pace.
Yeah.
Maintain control. Their view is that external funding forces this kind of unsustainable hypergrowth.
Which often kills the company or just ruins the culture.
Exactly.
And their philosophy on management, also pretty streamlined.
Brutal simplicity, you could say. They basically threw out the whole idea of traditional middle management.
Meaning?
No long meetings. No endless status reports. Absolutely no strict controlling hierarchy.
It was all about trust.
Total trust. Trust people to do their jobs, give them autonomy.
Okay, and finally, the product itself.
Keep it simple, keep it practical, launch fast.
The minimum viable product idea.
Precisely. Get something out there quickly and learn entirely from what your customers tell you. Don't spend a year perfecting something in a vacuum.
Because you might find out you built the wrong thing entirely.
Exactly. And you have to remember the context of 2010. Business schools, big companies, they were all obsessed with detailed business plans, multiple funding rounds, complex multi-year budgets.
Standard operating procedure.
Rework just came along and said, you could ignore all of that. Start
Yeah.
simple, succeed simple, scale simple.
And for a decade, that really resonated. It lowered the barrier to entry for so many people.
Inspired countless small teams to just go for it without needing huge amounts of capital.
It's wild to think rejecting a 5-year plan was radical. Now, like you said, 5 years feels like an eternity, especially with AI.
Totally different world.
So that simple approach worked well for a long time. But things have changed. Starting a company might be easier in some ways now. SaaS tools, AI helpers everywhere.
Right, the barrier to starting is maybe lower.
But the whole landscape is fundamentally different. That simplicity that was once their edge. Maybe it's actually a liability now.
That's the core tension, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Easy to start, maybe, but exponentially harder to stay relevant.
Okay.
And we see, well, maybe 4 main areas where that original radical rework simplicity just doesn't quite cut it in 2025.
All right, let's break those down. Where does it fall short first? Market saturation,
Let's start there. Yeah, the first big challenge,
right?
the crowded market. Back in 2010, just being fast and lean was unique.
It made you stand out.
Now, everyone has access to the same tools, the same templates. Competition is just intense.
Hmm.
And because AI can automate so much basic execution, writing code, creating content, rapid prototyping,
Right.
simple execution isn't enough to differentiate you anymore.
So you can be fast, but so can everyone else.
Exactly. If 50,000 other people are just as fast with a similar idea, how do you stand out? Where's that blue ocean? The competitive mode has to be deeper than just speed now.
Okay, challenge one. Crowded market, speed isn't enough. What's next? You mentioned remote work. Rework was actually pretty early on that, weren't they?
They were, yeah. But that was before it became, well, mandatory for huge parts of the global workforce.
So challenge two is ubiquitous remote work.
Precisely. The original book saw remote work as kind of a perk, a way to cut down on office politics and overhead.
A simpler way to work.
Right. But now you've got massive traditional companies operating fully remote or hybrid. The sheer scale and complexity of managing teams spread across the globe, different time zones, different cultures, legal compliance. It demands a much more sophisticated approach.
More than just saying, okay, work from home.
Way more. You need serious systems for communication, for building trust when you don't see people, for accountability. It's a different beast entirely.
Okay, so market saturation, complexity of remote work. Third, you mentioned AI earlier, democratizing speed. Let's call that the AI effect.
Yeah, and this is maybe the biggest game changer for the rework model.
How so? If the philosophy is about being fast and lean?
Because if everyone can be fast and lean using AI tools, then fast and lean stops being a competitive advantage. It becomes table stakes.
Ah, okay, so what is the advantage then?
It shifts. If AI handles the repetitive output, the speed part, then human effort needs to focus elsewhere. On strategy. On high-value decisions.
Using data.
Exactly. The key differentiators become sophisticated strategy, using vast amounts of data to find genuinely new customer insights. It's not just about being low cost and fast anymore.
If AI gives you speed, humans need to provide the insight and the creativity.
That's the shift. Operational efficiency is being automated. Strategic insight is becoming premium.
Makes sense. That covers tech and competition. But there's a people element too, right? A cultural shift.
Absolutely. Challenge number 4. Cultural shifts, especially with, younger generations entering the workforce, like Gen Z.
What are they looking for that's different?
It's more than just freedom and a paycheck now. Employees are looking for meaning, purpose. They want to feel the company aligns with their ethics. Flexibility is still key, but it includes things like strong mental health support.
Not just do your work and go home.
Right. The cultural values have shifted. People want to feel part of a mission, part of a real community, even if it's a remote one. If you ignore that layer, you just get high turnover and bad morale, no matter how lean your setup is.
Okay, so those are some significant challenges. Crowded market, complex remote work, the AI effect changing the game, and shifting employee expectations. It sounds like the original rework playbook needs, well, a rework.
Pretty much.
But here's where it gets interesting. The sources we looked at suggest we don't just toss the whole thing out. The core mindset might still be valuable.
The spirit of it.
But it needs a serious strategic update. Maybe we can call it Rework 2.0. And the new formula seems to boil down to focus plus community plus AI.
That feels about right. It's an evolution.
So how do those three elements address the breakdowns we just talked about? How do you execute differently?
Well, you have to modify the core concepts for how things work now. Take remote work, for instance. You move beyond just freedom.
To what?
To freedom plus explicit responsibility. You can't just rely on gut feel trust across a global team anymore. That trust needs to be supported, underpinned
Right tools.
by advanced, transparent, asynchronous management tools. That's crucial.
Okay, so that's a key difference. The tool set has to actively support the trust, not just assume it.
Exactly. We're talking about consciously integrating things like Asana, Notion, maybe specialized AI project management systems. These aren't just glorified to-do lists.
What do they do then?
They create a clear, often audited, asynchronous record of who's doing what decisions were made, what the output is. That visibility becomes the foundation for trust when you can't rely on, seeing someone across the office.
Okay, that covers the remote work complexity. But what about planning? Rework's genius was partly rejecting all that formal planning, relying on intuition. How do you bring in data without getting slow and bureaucratic again?
That's the tightrope walk, isn't it? Because purely emotional gut feel decisions, probably not sufficient anymore, not with the amount of data available.
So the 5-year plan is still out.
Oh yeah, still too rigid, almost certainly. But a better substitute is moving towards flexible planning.
What does that look like in practice?
Often it means using something like the OKR framework objectives and key results maybe on a 12-month cycle.
Can you quickly explain OKRs for anyone not familiar?
Sure. Basically, you set a big, ambitious, maybe inspirational objective for the year. Then you define maybe 3 to 5 measurable key results that tell you if you're actually achieving that objective.
And that's more flexible how?
Because you can revisit and adjust the key results, maybe quarterly, based on what you're learning, without throwing out the whole year's strategic direction. It gives you structure without the 5-year concrete block.
And data fits in here.
Absolutely. Successful businesses now use data analysis, customer behavior, market trends to set those key results. It's a move away from purely instinct-driven decisions. You still start small, but you have to learn from the data and learn fast.
Got it. So start small, move fast, classic rework, but use tech and flexible planning like OKRs to add strategic depth. Depth the original model maybe lacked.
Exactly.
Okay, what about growth? The original book was wary of hypergrowth. But in a crowded market, can you afford not to grow reasonably quickly?
The goal matures, I think. It shifts from just focusing on raw speed, that sort of frenetic pace,
Towards what?
towards ensuring sustainable growth. It's an acknowledgement that the market's too noisy for just flash-in-the-pan ideas. Longevity takes stability, strategic thinking, and crucially, building that community we mentioned.
Bringing in the community piece.
Yes. If everyone's fast, thanks to AI, your real competitive advantage, your moat, isn't just speed anymore. It's loyalty. It's connection. And that's built through community and shared values.
So that community, part of the Rework 2.0 formula focus plus community plus AI, is about differentiation and retention.
Exactly. It's how you stand out and keep customers when there are countless, fast, potentially cheaper clones popping up.
That really crystallizes it. The core Rework mindset, start small, cut complexity. That part feels timeless.
It is, yeah. Don't overcomplicate unnecessarily.
But the execution needs a major update. So the 2025 message is maybe start small, yes, but learn fast using data, plan flexibly, and actively grow with your community using transparent tools to make it all work.
I think that captures the evolution well. If you connect it all up, Rework is still inspiring, right? Because it still gives you that permission slip to reject needless complexity, to not just copy the big, slow legacy companies. But the raw 2010 version, it's incomplete for today's leaders. It needs those mandatory updates. You have to layer in advanced tech data tools, AI, and you have to understand the dynamics of global teams and intentional community building. That's non-negotiable now for real, stable success.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've basically seen that foundational advice, good ideas, they can survive, but only if we're willing to be pretty ruthless about updating the tools and the strategies we use to execute them.
The philosophy endures, the methods evolve.
Right. The idea of don't overcomplicate is still true. But how we achieve that simplicity today, it actually requires more strategy and definitely more technology than they needed 15 years ago.
It's simplicity built on a more complex foundation, in a way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Okay, final provocative thought for you to chew on. We talked about that core rework principle, work less, produce more output. Now that AI can handle so much repetitive output, are you really using that freed up time for the strategic, high-value thinking we discussed? Or is the sheer complexity of modern business, the constant updates, the noise, is it forcing you back into a high-effort model just to keep your head above water?
That's a critical question.
Think about how AI is changing your personal effort equation. And maybe more importantly, what does output truly mean for you and your team today? Is it just tasks completed, or is it something deeper?
Something to consider.
Definitely something to consider. Thanks for diving deep with us.